There we go. Okay, here we go. Hi, YouTube friends. I guess there was a problem with the connection there, but we're set up over there. There you go. So YouTube and Twitch are going at the same time now. All right, so back into here. For the folders, in case you like to organize things by color, I know I certainly do. Sometimes just having a slight difference in either tone or color is an easy way to navigate through a bunch of folders and be able to quickly find whatever it is that you need. There is a way to do that. You just right click on whatever folder it is, and you go to this option here, set color, new color, or existing color if you have an existing color that you want to be able to swap between. And here you go. You can change that folder to whatever you need it to be just for organizational purposes. And it will save these colors as you saw. So then if you want to be able to assign that same color, maybe it's a similar folder with a similar function, you can do so by going to set color and just go to your existing colors here and swap around. This is again for just quick glance. So you're not having to think too much about what it is that you're going into, which folder that you're navigating towards. Not necessary strictly, of course, but is hopefully helpful in finding you some extra time in between all of these different spots here. So for those on YouTube that you missed part of the beginning here, so sorry about that. I promise what we'll do is we'll pull the full VOD. So you'll get the full stream later if you want to be able to see stuff that you missed at the beginning. Don't worry, we'll make sure that's set up. But that's for quick glance. Another thing to consider when it comes to folders, because obviously there are some folders that have stuff that we're constantly navigating to over repeatedly. And having to go through the same files over and over can be inconvenient, to say the least. So continuing on the theme for favorites, and also we'll get into collections as well, just easier ways to set up navigation for you. So let's say that we are constantly going into the level prototyping materials folder. And we know that we're constantly referencing back to this folder repeatedly. And even though right now with the current folder structure, it's fairly easy to get to it. But as we all know, folder structures can certainly stack up on top of itself, especially for a longer ongoing project. So if you have a folder that you know you're navigating towards a lot, you can actually favorite that folder and save you the clicks or the time in trying to have to navigate through your folder structure. All you have to do is find whatever folder it is that you like, right-click that folder, and you'll see right here, add to favorites yet again. Click, and you will see materials has populated right here in our favorite section. So now, of course, instead of, we click around, I'm somewhere else in the content drawer here, going through, oh no, I need my materials from my level prototyping. That's okay, friends. You have it favorited. One simple click right there for you. The one caveat with this, of course, is that favorites in the content browser works only for folders. So if I were to right click on an actual asset, like the materials in here, for example, you'll see that there is not a add to favorites option. That is because favorites are specifically just for folders. But if there is something as far as actual assets or materials or actors or anything like that goes, where you don't necessarily want everything in this folder, especially if, say, this material folder was populated with tons of materials that you would have to scroll through to be able to see everything that's in there. And you have just a handful of materials that you know you're going to be using and utilizing all of the time. That's where collections would come in hand. So collections down here on the left, bottom left, you'll click this plus option right here, add a collection. We'll make a new local collection, name it whatever you want. This will be material 1. And for now, there's not anything in it, but that's okay. We'll navigate back to our favorite material folder here. And there's two options. You can either right click whatever it is that you want to add, and you'll see that if you click, oh my God, no. There is an option directly in here to add things into your collection. Right here at the bottom, you'll see Manage Collection, and it has my Material 1 collection right there. I'm going to say collection so many times. But we click that, and it has now populated here in our collection. Yay! But you can also click and drag if actually going through the drop-down menu is inconvenient for whatever reason. If it's sitting at the bottom, kind of like how mine is there, that's fine. You can just click and drag onto your collection, and it will also populate it that way as well. You can set up as many favorites or collections as you need. These are both convenient for different reasons, depending on whatever it is that you would need it for. You can add more collections after this. Let's say Material 2 with a capital A, because I said so. And again, we can pull new materials into here for whatever reason. If we actually manage to select the right thing. And then you can quickly hop back and forth between your two collections to view the materials that you need directly there. If you set up a collection incorrectly or decide that you no longer need it and you want to set up a collection for a different thing, you've moved on to a different part of your project, this isn't necessary anymore, that's fine. Right-click and delete. Delete Material 2, delete Material 1, and it will delete that collection. However, if we go back to our favorites folder here, of course, it does not actually delete the material itself. It just deleted that collection. So now you have the room and capacity to make whatever else you need now that will better serve purposes for your project that you are building. Yay! Everybody clap. It's a demand. But those are the content drawer favorites and collections. Those will also hopefully save you a little bit of time, especially when it comes to quick navigation and organization. Now, another thing when it comes to organization, this me having to quickly swap to my other notes super quick real here. All right, so let's find, you know what? Let's just do one of these materials. We'll open. Do I want this material? I don't know if I want this one, but we'll work with it anyway. It's fine. What I'm about to show you will also apply to general blueprints as well. But this'll do for showing what we need to show. So this will work for anything that is spaghetti related, the good old spaghetti. Like I said, we're going to do this in the material editor, but you could also do this in any blueprint navigator, the event graph, whatever you need it in. We're still in organization and favorite section right here. So I don't know about you, but I tend to get a little tiny bit obsessive about making sure that all of my nodes line up. And I will go out of my way to take the time to make sure that they line up in whatever way that I need them to. So if I need them to line up from the top, I would have previously absolutely 100% gone through and taken the time to actually line them up as such. But no longer. I am here to tell you, friends, that is not necessary. You can marquee select. This is just left mouse button, click and drag for anyone who doesn't know, to grab whichever nodes it is that you want to have set up. And if you want to have them lined up, let's say have them all aligned on the left, I'm going to hold Shift and I'm going to hit A. And it aligns your nodes to the left. I cannot, okay, again, probably not a big deal for everybody. When I found out about this, my life fundamentally changed. Because I am not kidding. I literally would absolutely take the time, especially when you're working in the blueprints, when you're trying to get them all set up. Oh my gosh, the time and energy I would take to make sure everything was perfectly lined up. It is actually upsetting. But so that works for any of the WASD keys, WASD keys, I should say. So let's say now we want it to align to the top, Shift W. Look, look at it. It all aligns. Oh my goodness gracious. So yes, there is a setup there, a auto layout, as some of you might call it. Yes, I am reading chat, Takuzi, unless I slaughtered your name and I apologize. But yes, this is live and I am reading chat as much as I can. I have I have a few monitors that I'm bouncing between, so if it takes a second, don't mind me. But yes, this is definitely something to consider. Robert 100% did call it. This is the WASD trick. This will save you time. If you're like me and this matters to you, I know that having nodes line up perfectly does not matter to everyone, and that's fine. I would argue the fact that your nodes perfectly aligning not mattering to you probably means that overall you are in a better state of mind than I am. However, if it does matter to you, like it matters to me, this is how you can quickly save some time for yourself. So also, speaking about spaghetti and getting things all set up here with our spaghetti, let's do, what should we do next? We'll do just moving things around. So when it comes to connecting some of your nodes, right? Let's say we have the same connections going between all of these materials here. And don't actually do this because I am 100% breaking this material right now, but it's okay. It's for, you know, this is for example purposes. Do as I say, not necessarily directly as I do in this case. So first and foremost, if you want to create a connection between two nodes, you can click whichever the connection is here, shift click over, or just drag, of course. And if you need to cancel that selection, make sure you select the connection that you need to get rid of. Hello, you need to work. Why are you not working for me? It's Alt to remove connections. I don't know why it's deciding to be a butt about it right now. Select the node. Hello? No, it's making me a liar. I promise you it works. Okay, I actually don't know why that's working, but that's fine. If you want to quickly move... Oh no. Oh no, everybody. Hello. Why? Why will it not? I promise you, you can select a connection, and hit Alt. It will delete it, and I don't know why it's not, so don't worry about it. It's because you have Shift selected the pin on the material node. Oh, you're right. You're right. You right. So when you do that, it isolates that connection. Thank you. We're gonna do something here, all right? We're gonna close this. We're all gonna collectively take a breath. And we're gonna forget that the last 30 seconds happened. Okay. Does that sound solid to everyone? I think I'm okay with that, if you're okay with that. Anyway, so let's go back into here. We're gonna move some of these connections over into some of these other spots here. All right. Now, if you want to get rid of a connection, right? There we are, my friends. You Alt left click to get rid of that connection. And it worked the first time I did it. Unbelievable, right? Um, so that's one part of the wonderful spaghetti Olympics that we're going on here. Another thing, of course, is if you have multiple connections going into one spot, like I do with all of these going into the roughness here, for example. But say I want to move these to a different node. You can easily do that by you hold control left mouse button, I should say. Click and drag over to whichever node it is that you want to place them into instead. That way you can move around multiple connections all at once in between nodes. Save you a little bit of time here. There you go. So there's a couple things for the spaghetti there that I just wanted to make sure y'all know about to hopefully save you a little bit of time and energy, especially when it comes to moving around connections, breaking connections, all that good stuff. So we'll exit out of the materials now because we don't need to be in there for this next bit. There is a couple call outs that I want to make for sure. When it comes to a few tips, there's a couple resources online that are incredible. Especially when it comes to just super quick tips on learning the engine. One of those is there is a site called a YouTube channel, not a site, a YouTube channel called Savio. And they have some really great, interesting tips. One of which that I'm about to show you, but I wanted to make sure that I credited him with it because I never would have thought to do it before. And it is actually incredible. So we are going to simulate physics on some of our static meshes. So this would be a really great way to set up a scene where if you have a bunch of meshes and instead of painstakingly placing every single one of those pieces to have it look organic or make it feel like something that's been lived in or played with, you don't necessarily have to do that all manually yourself. There are some ways that you can simulate those sorts of things, save you a little bit of time and effort, and then just go in afterwards to do a little bit of manual tweaking to get it exactly where you want it to be. So we're going to do that with these beautiful boxes that I had set up previously for my example of the different bookmark camera positions when I was making a bunch of these cubes, squares, for no reason. It wasn't for no reason, was it? Because it continues. All right, so you're gonna select everything that you need here. Oh, I need all. What am I doing? Now, what you're gonna do, you're going to grab whichever items it is that you want to do this with. Now, typically by default, this simulate physics checkbox right here under physics is off. So you're going to want to turn that from false to true, or just checkbox it. And now with that turned on, up here you would normally have the play button. Right here, it would have it as the selected viewport. We don't want that. What we want is to change it here in this little 3-button drop down into simulate instead. Or, as you might have seen, Alt-S will also change this over to simulate. So now we've hit simulate physics. Everything has fallen into where it would organically by just falling from whatever height it's at. Imagine, if you will, so in our last stream that we did, there was an example that Dan had given about if you have a bunch of leaves from a tree, how painstaking it could be to place the leaves at the bottom as they have fallen off. This could be one way of skipping a lot of the work around doing stuff like that. But so we have all of our static meshes that have fallen. While you are still in the simulate mode here, you don't want to end yet, because if you do, it will just place all of your objects back to where they were. And if you're doing this for placing static meshes, then you need to stay in the simulate mode for just a moment here. Once you've done that, select whichever boxes you want to have keep their position. I'm going to say just these 4 for now. And you'll hit the K key. K as in Kit Kat. You will see down there in the bottom right, it said that it saved position for those static meshes. Now, if I hit stop simulation, for these boxes, they are now keeping their position from where they have fallen and set. So this would be a really, really cool and interesting way of setting up a couple different scenes to get a slightly more natural way of things that have fallen, or even if you just find that you've set up a level and things look a little bit too clinical, things look a little too perfect, literally just grab some of your props, pull them up a little bit from the ground, and then let it go. Just let it go. Let it see where it falls. I see a question here of, does this work for cloth? Cloth sim is a completely separate thing. Unfortunately, this hack will work only specifically with like solid static meshes that you want to have fall as just one piece, because this is not animated physics. This is just, it has fallen, landed wherever it may, and that is where the object will now stay. Good old static mesh placement there. Now I want to take a second and ask you all if there are, let me double check here that I'm not missing anything. Oh, there is one thing that I'm missing. But honestly, it feels correct that it was saved for last. And I don't know how I forgot it, because I actually use this all of the time when I'm just booping about in the engine myself. But before I get to that, I do want to take a second to ask y'all in chat if there are any hotkeys or shortcuts or things like that that you have found personally that has sped up your workflow that you haven't seen here thus far, because I would very much like to know some of those. I'm sure everyone else in chat would also like to know about those, given the topic for today of quick ways to kind of speed up your workflow overall. But the last thing that I want to bring up, wait, no, I lied. There's 2. Oh no. I'm organized, I swear. The second to last thing that I want to bring up is Control P. So this will give us the open asset window. You can use this window anywhere in the engine. It does not matter what kind of window you're in. You don't need to be in the viewport. You can be in the material editor, you can be in a blueprint editor, you can be in sequencer, you can be anywhere in the engine, and you can use Control P and it will open this open asset window. This is a great way to be able to draw upon assets without having to pull things from different windows, swap between different windows. You have access to everything that you need right here. And technically, you don't even need to use your mouse for it. You could just use everything directly from the keyboard. So let's look up lamp, for example. If I want to be able to pull open lamp, I can just use the arrow keys, navigate down, hit enter, and it'll pull up my lamp window for me right here. If you are here in the viewport, another thing you could use it for, again, Control P, we'll just use the same thing with lamp. I know I want to pull out my wall lamp here. You can just click and drag out your wall lamp from this editor as well, instead of directly from the content browser. So sure, you have your search function in the content browser, but if you're already using the open asset window for other things, that is also a quick and easy way to access a lot of your stuff, especially if you know very specifically what it is that you're looking for. Which in this case was our beautiful wall lamp. 10 out of 10, beautiful. All right. The actual last thing that I want to show you, and this would also be listed, I would consider as an organization tip. So we are all aware of the search bar in the content browser. It's hard to miss. It's sitting right there at the top. But did you know that there is such a thing as advanced search, where if you're looking for specific actors based off of certain criteria, you can use the search bar to find items that way. The way I'm explaining it is awful, so I'm just going to show you. Let's say that I want to find an object that is 100 vertices or less. So what I'll do in the search bar here, I can actually type out vertices, and we'll do a quick little less than symbol, do 100. Now, here in my content browser, if I go and scroll over these, it has pulled up every single static that is 100 vertices or less. And you can confirm that by scrolling over here. You can see for the first one, it's listed in the very bottom there. It is second from the bottom. This one's 24 vertices. This one's 48 vertices, 54, so on and so forth. And now let's say I want this to be opposite. Instead, now I want to find every mesh that is 100 vertices or greater. You can do that as well. And now again, you can click through 645, 183, so on and so forth. So, but that's just one way of using this. Let's say I also want to find, I want to find all sounds. You'll do type double equals, and then whatever type of actor it is that you're looking for. So I'm looking for sound. Now it has pulled up every single sound, actor, and asset that is listed in all of my folders. Say now I want to find every single material. Same thing. It'll swap this over to show all of the materials that are listed in this project. So you can still, of course, navigate around to find things specifically by name, like you would typically. We'll just use lamp again because I love me the wall lamp. And it'll pull all of those up. But if you're trying to find something that is a broader search, either because you need to have access to more of those items at once, then this is a great way to do that. And I encourage you to play around. There's a tons of different ways to advance search, and you can find what the different controls, I guess it would be, for finding the different types of content is, if that is something that's interesting to you. But something to be aware of is advanced search. Let me make sure I'm going through questions here. I've been talking so much. Let's go ahead and pull up some questions, why shall we? Do favorites carry over to other similar actors, like new lights added to scene? So the favorites will function between any actors that are similar to each other. So if I go into details here for one of our static meshes, for example, and I'm going to do just our static mesh option here, add to favorites. I make sure that I pull open the actual favorites window here at the top. If I click between other static meshes, you will see that this static mesh section for favorites is still available here. But if I click onto our light, it does not show up because obviously that isn't an option for the static mesh. So if you know that there are certain functions that you need quick access to between different actor types, that's a great time to use favorites. So like I said, for intensity, for lights, it's already part of my favorites. But you can see there that you can remove things from your favorites too if you want. Now, if I pull in a new light, because I believe that was another question of if it will transfer between, it will. So even if I pull in a brand new light that was not active previous to me setting my favorites, those same settings are still available right there under my favorites tab. So this is definitely something to consider for stuff that you find yourself navigating towards a lot between actors of a similar type, and they'll always be there, even when you pull a new one into your scene. How do you share folder colors into a Perforce project for the rest of the team? You know what? That's a great question. I actually don't know if folder colors can be shared As far as anything outside of local goes, I'd have to actually look that up. I believe that color folder colors are native to your own machine and are not technically part of the project itself because it's part of your UI, right? So unless you specifically sent over the way that your UI is set up through your Perforce or anything similar, then I don't believe that it would transfer. Um, yeah, I'm seeing someone say, I think folder colors are local. They didn't carry over when I moved project to other machine. So yeah, I'm pretty sure that folder colors are just to your local machine. It's your native UI. So it's great for you. But if you're trying to use that as an organization method for teams at large, unfortunately, it's not going to transfer over. But this is for mostly just working for yourself in ways at a quick glance that you can find things for yourself. Although I'm seeing someone say, I'm pretty sure it's serialized in configs. Yeah. Um, but you can share collections. Thank you, Door to Nothingness, for mentioning that. That's a good point. So collections in the content browser, you can actually share those through your project. So even though you can't necessarily organize by color-coded folders, you can still share through collections and organize that way. If there are certain materials or actors or what be that you want to make sure everybody has access to, those can be shared through a project. What's next here? Can I have the game random select out of the collection? Huh. That is a great question. I don't know. I would imagine that you can because there's several different ways that you can reference a collection in your content browser. I don't know if that would necessarily be the most effective way of doing that. It would probably be better to set up some kind of library that it pulls from. But which technically, is that not just what a collection would be? Me asking myself more questions off of your questions. But yes, I would conjecture that you probably could, but I also imagine that there are much easier ways of going about that same process. Let's see. Can I copy and paste a blueprint from one project into a new project if I own the project in Unreal? There is a way to copy and paste blueprint node values. Trying to remember if you can actually transfer just straight up blueprints from one to another. But I know that you can copy and paste blueprint values. You couldn't for a long time, but you can now. That is also a hotkey. I don't recall off the top of my head. I think it's literally just Control Shift V. Control Shift C, Control Shift V. Somebody fact check me on that, please. But I'm pretty certain that that is a way that you can at least copy and paste values from one node over to another. Let's see. That seems to be most of the main questions thus far. I do also want to go through and mention any cool quick tips that other people had. Let's see. Oh, good, good, good. Good, good. Someone said Alt F4 is my first UE shortcut I was taught by my friend. Your friend. Are they really your friend? Let's have a chat. Let's have a talk, my friend. I don't we need to consider the people that you surround yourself with. Um, Oh, yes, actually. So there are ways to pop around between perspective and also these different lit modes as well. You can see them here when I hover over them again, referencing back to how a lot of the hotkeys are available in dropdowns from the ways that you would manually do them before. So if you want to quickly toggle between different lighting modes, you can do so here with Alt 4, Alt 3, Alt 2, Alt 5, Alt 6, and so on and so forth. Same with perspective. You can change around to different orthographic views and such directly from hotkeys on your keyboard as well. which is also a pretty good time saver in my humble opinion, of course. And you can also change just the different types of modes that you are in as well with shift 1 through 8. So if you want to quickly move back and forth between selection mode, modeling mode, brush editing, you can see all of those different options here as well. Please don't forget to, take a second to really analyze your drop downs and see which hotkeys you may or may not be missing. Let's see, are there any other questions that come up? Do you have any tips for using content browser filters, and do you use them often? I don't. I don't typically use filters, just because I like the search bar, and I like advanced search specifically very much. I find that kind of works for me in place of filters. It more or less functions the exact same way, except I feel like I have a little bit more control over what those filters end up being and the results that I end up getting. So that's my answer to that. But do I use my alternative of filters often? Yes, all the time. I use advanced search literally all the time. It's a little unreasonable occasionally. Is there a way to lock actors so we don't accidentally click them? There is, actually. You can pin actors so that they cannot be moved. Or do you mean so that you literally cannot even accidentally select them in the viewport? There is also a way to do that. And I'm forgetting what the option is for that too. But I know it is possible. I like how there's a lot of these where I'm like, yes. Don't ask me how. But yes. The answer to your question is yes. I would have to look up how to do it. You can, of course, pin right here. This will choose if stuff is always loaded, of course, in the editor. But actually locking them is also possible. I'm just forgetting at this exact moment of time how to do that. Do you use editor utility widgets to speed up your workflow? It depends on what I'm doing, but they can be incredibly useful at times. Medgrotrom, I don't think I have ever done advanced search. I've noticed quite a few people didn't realize that was a thing. I didn't for a long time myself. It was actually one of our own internal devs who told me about advanced search, and it has radically changed how I go about doing things in the engine ever since. Not the tech guy says, I will just disable the eye on an asset if I don't want to select it. It's not perfect, but it works. That's true. That is one way of going about it. Just get rid of it. You can't select it if you don't see it. Out of sight, out of mind. There is a way to lock assets with them still visible, but again, I'm just not remembering off the top of my head how to do that. All right. Well, let me make sure I'm not missing any other questions here. Is it possible to duplicate an object multiple times while keeping the exact spacing? For example, a fence post. Yes, there is, but for an example like a fence post, I would actually use a spline, and then populate along a spline for something like that. Because then you could also change the position of the fence post whenever you want. But there's an array tool that you can use that'll populate things along a very specific distance between each other that you can use for that. Let's see. Any other questions? Oh, in regards to camera bookmarks, is there a way those only work on a single viewport, leaving other viewports unchanged? For me, the camera viewports change the view at all viewports. They do. So camera bookmarks, unless you are using them specifically off of an actual camera actor, will just change from the viewport perspective. So for those on YouTube, because I think you missed camera bookmarks. Or did you see it? I don't know. But if you're doing it just from your default camera, it will change your overall viewport sections. So you would have to do it based off of a camera actor if you wanted to make it stay for your other ones. But that being said, I do still love my bookmarks. They make things so much easier. Let's see. Oh, someone found it. So if you want to lock movement, it is move, right click, transform, lock actor movement. There you go. That is how you can lock something and keep it from being accidentally moved around. Thank you so much for that, Macmatech. Appreciate you taking the time to get that out here for us all. All right. Well, for now, that is all of the quick tips and tricks that I had brought for you all today. Hopefully some of these were helpful to you. Hopefully some of them were new. And if not, hopefully this was just a fun refresher for those of you who did know about all of these sorts of things. Hopefully these are helpful for beginners or even for some of you who have been using the engine for a long time. Things have changed, especially in the UI and how the UI functions and looks. So it's easy to miss some of those new things in that regard. So hopefully there was some fun little tips and tricks here that you will be able to implement into your own workflow to help speed things up, cut a couple seconds out of repeatable, tedious tasks, so on, so forth, stuff like that. But again, I also implore you all, especially once this goes from live to the VOD, in the comments of that, if you have additional shortcuts or recommendations for ways that you have found have helped speed up your workflow, either just a little bit or even exponentially, anything that's been helpful to you, please feel free to comment it so that other devs can also learn some of these tips and tricks and hopefully help improve their workflow overall. I very much believe in not gatekeeping information. Let's all help each other improve, help each other work faster, work better, make better, cooler things for everyone. This is how I feel. So take the time to do that if you have the time and ability to do so. Yeah, I think that's probably going to be it for today. Thank you all so much for taking the time to be here and to hang out with me. Just little old me, Tina. It's not typical that we have a show where it is just me here showing you some of these things. So I appreciate you being here. Like I said, taking the time to hang out, asking questions, giving some of your own thoughts, some of your own little shortcuts, tips, and tricks. I appreciate that very much. Again, for anyone who missed it at the beginning, we will be taking a short break over the next 2 weeks. So there won't be shows for the next 2 weeks following, but we'll be back after that, back and better than ever. We're going to have a lot of really great content lined up for you, including a lot of 5.4 stuff. We're going to have the animation team on to talk more in depth about quite a bit of the animation updates that came out in .4, because there were a lot of them. And I'm not just talking about motion matching, just animation in general. There was a lot of really great stuff. So we're going to have some of them on to chat about all of that. Yeah, it's gonna be a good time. So in the meantime, enjoy the next 2 weeks. I hope you do. I hope you play games that you enjoy. I hope you take time to do the thing that is special to you. I hope that you have the chance to relax. And we'll see y'all then. Thanks so much, everybody. Bye.